Hello, my name is Sharika Johnson Watson, and I am the owner of A Better You Counseling Services. I am here to talk to you about tantrums. And I was having a conversation in regards to tantrums with my husband last night, and I told him I am going to do a little reel or just a quick talk about it. So for me, we know tantrums usually are for our babies or our toddlers, but long and behold, after like a couple of weeks of examining, and I want to talk about tantrums are not just for our toddlers. This is also our tweens, our teens, and our adults. So we all are going through it, but at the core of it, the fact is a lack of emotional regulation. And so when we talk about emotional regulation is when we understand that emotion overwhelms us. And so instead of us learning to work out our emotions and how we feel and talk it through and communicate effectively, we don't. And so that's when our tantrums come up. And I was a practice manager for a practice company, and I saw it all the time, even with some of the owners of the practice. So it's actually pretty amazing that we don't realize that as adults we still throw tantrums, but we don't label it as tantrums. We call it losing our cool or something within that effect, but actually it's a tantrum, and it's the fact that you have not learned how to emotionally regulate when you get upset, or you have not learned how to effectively communicate when you do get upset, or your feelings are hurt, or someone has crossed your boundary, or it's the lack of boundaries in itself. So emotional regulation is very, very important. I talk about this all the time with my clients, and some of us don't realize how important it is, but it is very, very, very important. So let's talk about our tweens. Our tweens, sometimes what they do, or let's imagine a visual, is they slam the door. Or then our teens, then they're yelling during an argument. Adults may throw stuff or walk out the room, slam the door as well. This, again, is all the fact of not learning to regulate ourselves. So what we want to do is, for our teens and our tweens, we want to just realize that they're still developing within their brain. So especially in the prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain that helps us think. So since it's not fully developed, then sometimes they don't think properly, or they don't think things out all the way. But we can teach them how to emotionally regulate, and that's something that we all should be doing. But our adults, many of us have never been taught how to regulate our emotions. Instead, we bottle things up and then we explode later. And so what we want to do is we want to learn how to emotionally regulate. So some tips and some things to think about to help yourself emotionally regulate is ask yourself the question, what do I need? What's happening? And what is going on? Get to the root of it. There's a root for everything that we do, and most of the time when tantrums are, it's just because people have reached their emotional capacity, especially when it comes to regulating their emotions. So something else that's helpful for people to know, there is something called the window of tolerance, and I teach this to all my kids. So just imagine a window. The window of tolerance is basically when you're within your window, which that means you're able to handle or accept or take on what's happening at that moment. So just if you look through a regular window, those things are telling you that you're in your window of tolerance. But there are different portions of the window of tolerance as well. So when you're above your window of tolerance, that's hyper arousal. Typically you get hyper, angry, upset, irritated, and that means you're outside of your window of what you're able to tolerate at that moment. So you need to find find things to regulate yourself. But then if you're below your window of tolerance, it's called hypoarousal, which basically means that you are below your window of tolerance, and usually you're like running out of gas, in a sense, running out of gas. Or what I like to tell my teens is like when your cell phone is about to die. So that's how you're feeling. You're down, you're drained, you're tired, you don't want to hear anything, and there's just a lot going on. So being aware of what you're able to tolerate is also helpful. So within emotional regulation, what does that even mean? So let's break it down. Emotions are how we feel: happy, sad, joyful, and etc. But then when we take in the regulation, what does regulation means? It actually means to regulate, right? So if you do emotional regulation together, then you learn to say, well, if I'm angry, I need to regulate how I feel. And how do you regulate how you feel? Well, what are your mechanisms for coping? Either taking deep breaths, counting to 10, walking away, taking a moment, and then just coming to realizations of how you feel and actually embracing how you feel, so you're able to emotionally regulate. So later you don't throw a tantrum, or you don't get upset, or you don't yell at your wife, husband, or teens. You don't slam your door, walk away. So this is all important. This helps in the family dynamics system. If you learn to communicate, emotionally regulate, then it helps yourself, not only yourself, but everyone around you. So the key is to stop throwing tantrums at any age, right? So we can't just say to our toddlers, we want them to stop throwing tantrums when we have not taught them the proper tools of how to stop throwing tantrums when we're doing it ourselves. Tweens, teens, and adults, children mimic what they see, and teens mimic what they see. So if you are not emotionally regulating yourself, how do you expect for your toddler to do it? They can't. They don't have the right example. So help them. Emotional regulation skills: pause, take a deep breath before you reacting.